Guys, this is a lot of books. Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video we are going to be doing my third quarter book haul and unhaul. Before I get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments what was the last book that you bought on sale. Also, real quick, can we just take a second to appreciate this adorable mug that I found? I also got this on sale. It is so stinking cute. Anyway, as I was saying, this is the collection of books I have bought since July, and it's a lot. Starting out is a showcasing of why I should not be allowed to go into Barnes & Noble unsupervised, because if they have a BOGO sale, I will be taking advantage of it. So first up is Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. This book I actually didn't know anything about when I first saw it. This cover, however, made me have to pick it up. This is a YA dystopian apocalypse story following a trans boy, Benji, who is actually on the run from a cult which has put a biochemical weapon into his body. He ends up meeting up with some other teenagers and tries to work with them to not only survive in this hellish landscape, but also possibly utilize this bioweapon against the cult who created it. I actually already read this in September and it was so freaking good. I loved it. It was my favorite book of the month. Definitely shocking that I enjoyed a dystopian story, but with the horror element and then the societal discussions taking place, like, whew. So good. As I mentioned, our main character Benji is trans, but we also have another character who is autistic, so there's some fantastic representation in this story. Definitely recommend. Along with this one, I also bought A Marvelous Light by 𝗖cie RH𝘁𝘁. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is a queer romance fantasy, which I believe leans more into the fantastical element. I think we're following these two men who work in some kind of a government body, and one of them works for the magical side while the other does not, but he has to learn about said magical side. I recently heard Jess at Books Past Bedtime praise this a ton, and honestly, it makes me so much more excited for it. I also adore this cover. It is so pretty. Hoping to pick this one up here soon. I'm probably gonna say that about every single one of these books I haven't read yet. Next up is Cackle by Rachel Harrison. I know this is some kind of a sapphic witchy story. I think it's pretty light fantasy, but also I've just heard tons of positive things. I think it might technically be constituted as horror, but I'm not 100% sure on it. However, I saw this new cover of it and just automatically was super intrigued and decided to pick it up. Along with this one, I also grabbed You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle, which is one of my favorite romance books, which is shocking I did not already own. I think I read this one like 2 years ago. It is a second chance romance, enemies to lovers between two fiancés. Basically, our female main character, Naomi, has fallen out of love with her fiancé, Nicholas, but she is determined that she will not be the one to call off the wedding because that means she has to pay for everything. So instead, she decides to start pulling all of these ridiculous pranks on her fiancé, and along the way, he starts doing some in retaliation. Of course, it's a second chance romance book, so I think you can assume where it goes from there, but this book is so freaking funny. On top of the fact that it's just really sweet and adorable, I really want to try and reread it this December. Now I actually have it on my shelves and maybe I can do that. This next little section is just some random books I picked up here and there. First is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I think I actually bought this the week of Rom-Comathon. It was on sale at Target and I've been wanting to read this for quite a while. Another second chance romance. However, I believe we are following two authors who had a week-long fling when they were teenagers, and now it's a decade later, they meet once again, and turns out the two of them have actually been writing to one another within their stories. I've heard so many positive things about this. I've also heard that it has chronic illness rep, which we love to see that. I know it's a little heavier for a romance story, but I'm really excited to pick it up. I also picked up Float Plan by Trish Dollar. This is mostly because I found it on clearance at Half Price Books. This is another romance story, but I believe it is following a woman who is taking her fiance who passed away's boat out to sea, but she has no idea how to sail and ends up enlisting the help of a boat person. What would you even call that? Professional sailor, apparently, to help her sail this boat. I think along the way, the two of them start to bond over their grief and a new romance evolves from there. I'm fairly certain I originally heard about this book from Caroline Johnson, and I know she really enjoyed it. Here's hoping eventually I will actually pick up these romance books. And then finally is Spy Family Volume 1 by Tatsuya Endo. Everybody has been talking about Spy Family for months now, and I've been really intrigued to try it out. We are following a man who I think is a spy and for some reason has to gain access to this school, so he kind of creates a fake family for himself. However, his wife is an assassin and his daughter is a telepath. None of them know what the other person really does. I've heard this is very sweet while also being very funny. I assume with a spy and an assassin, it's gonna have some action elements too. Mostly I picked this up because I was shocked that I actually found a volume 1 in a comic book store. Everywhere else I've looked for this, I've only found later volumes. It took me so off guard, I couldn't help myself, I just had to pick it up. Surprisingly, in the last 3 months, I've actually only gotten one book from Book of the Month, and that was The Bronze Drum by Phong Nguyen. I believe this is following 2 Vietnamese sisters who actually band together with a group of other women to fight against the Hong dynasty, which is encroaching on Vietnam at this time in history. I've heard positive things, do love feminist historical stories, so I am hoping to pick this up eventually, particularly since I haven't read many stories from Vietnam and I don't know a lot about its history. I think this would be a great way to educate myself. Although I have not picked up many Book of the Month books, I recently joined the club and officially got a Pango account, which hasn't been too problematic yet. Unsurprisingly, the first books I had to try and get my hands on were the first 2 in the Winston Brothers series, so Truth or Beard and Grin and Beard It by Penny Reed. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm trash for the Winston family. I've been really enjoying this series. Have not even finished my original read of it, but already wanting to do a reread, which means I'm trying to get ahead of that and start collecting the books because it's gonna take up a lot of space, but honestly, I love this family so freaking much that I don't even care. Also, these covers are just like so freaking adorable and they fit the vibe and aesthetic of the story so well. And it's so cute, like the back even has little additional details that match up with the story and the characters. I'm glad I was able to find these for sale through another person instead of having to go through Amazon. Now I have to try and find Beard Science, which is like the most difficult one to find apparently. Along with those 2, I also picked up Faking It Under the Mistletoe by Ashley Shepherd. This is a holiday romance, which I actually am going to be reading for a video here soon. So this one I think is a fake dating romance between these 2 individuals that work together and they're going to a holiday party, and I think she agrees to be his fake girlfriend because like his ex-fiance is gonna be there or something like that. The back of this definitely makes it seem like he is a Grinch and she is reminiscent to Buddy the Elf. Very intrigued for that sort of a setup in terms of characters. I've heard good things about this one, I think from Kirsten at Kirsten's Corner. This is also indie published, so once again, love that I could get it from another person instead of Amazon. Next up are a few books that I've gotten as gifts recently. First up is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. A friend of mine, Molly, accidentally pre-ordered 2 versions of this and offered me the one that was not autographed. I absolutely had to say yes because this book has been getting so much praise. This is Jeanette McCurdy's memoir. She was a child actress and is diving into the complicated relationship she had with her mother. As I said, I've heard nothing but positive things about it and I am so excited to pick it up. I know it's definitely going to be a difficult, heavy read, but at the same time, I've heard only glowing reviews. So here's hoping I will definitely get to this for Nonfiction November. After that is Pandora's Jar by Natalie Haynes. Adriana at Carbon Bonded Books also got 2 copies of this book and was kind enough to send me the extra because she knows I also really enjoy Greek retellings. I think this one is actually more of a nonfiction story, diving into all of the different female characters from Greek mythology and further exploring their stories, and probably, I really hope, diving into why they're often vilified. I'm so excited to pick this one up. Adriana really enjoyed it when she read it for a video. Next is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. My friend Kat was kind enough to buy this for me for an early birthday present when she was visiting, and I am so excited. This is a Dr. Moreau retelling, obviously, which is a classic sci-fi story. Sylvia Moreno Garcia, I love her writing. I know her characters are fantastically morally gray, and from reviews I've heard about this book, this is almost like a sci-fi romance story, and honestly, that has me more intrigued because sci-fi and I don't always get along, so hopefully the romance will give me something to really latch on to. But this cover is absolutely stunning, and I cannot wait for more of Moreno Garcia's work. Next up is a book that my friend Allie bought me also for my birthday a little bit early, and that is Little Weirds by Jenny Slate. This is a memoir by the actress who plays Mona Mona Lisa in Parks and Rec, and I absolutely love her in that role. She's been in many other movies and shows, however, and I really enjoy her comedy style. This one I've not really heard anybody talk about, but I really like her as an actress, and I found that that is a great niche of memoirs for me to pick up. Here's hoping I will really enjoy this one. This last little stack is a collection of books I picked up in my book shopping vlog, which I recently posted, and I'll put a link to that in the cards up above if you're interested. First up is Kingdom of Souls by Rena Barron. I'm actually currently reading this when I'm filming it, and I'm really enjoying it. This is a YA fantasy story based around Yoruba religion and mythology, following a young woman who is actually the daughter of the most powerful magician in her country. Unfortunately for her, she does not have powers, and when she discovers her mother is actually starting to utilize her magic to gain more power, she decides to find a way to create her own magic and stand up against her. As I said, I'm currently in the middle of reading this one for a book club, which is why it's taken me a while, but I am really enjoying it. I'm very excited to continue. After that is another book I am currently in the middle of, and that's A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. This is the first in the Charlotte Holmes series, which is a kind of retelling of Sherlock Holmes stories. However, in this world, Sherlock and Watson were real people, and we are following the descendants of them. I'm currently in the middle of this, and I hate to say it's very meh, particularly since I am almost 200 pages in and it doesn't really feel like we've had a lot of mystery solving. Next is Soul Eater Volume 1 by 𝗖cie HS𝘁𝘁𝘁. This is my favorite anime and I have long been wanting to get into the manga, so I finally took the time to pick up the first volume. We are following multiple different meisters and weapons who are trying to become stronger so that the weapon can become a death scythe. As I said, I love this anime, and the manga actually continues past where the anime stops, which is a big reason why I've been wanting to pick this manga up. I'm finally doing it. Now I have to actually read it. Next is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, and I believe this is following a group of retirees who spend their Thursdays trying to solve murders. I've heard lots of positive things about it. I think it's a bit of a cozy mystery, but it sounds very cute and fun. Very excited to pick this one up. Next are two romances I am so freaking excited for. That is What If You and Me and For You and No One Else, both by Ronnie Lauren. She is actually an author local to me, so both of these are signed. This is the continuation in the Say Everything series. The first one is following our main character of Andy. She is a horror author who suffers from anxiety and I believe starts to have a bit of a romance with her ex-firefighter next door neighbor. I loved the first book in this series, Yes and I Love You, and I can't wait to continue it. On the opposite side, with For You and No One Else, we are following Eliza, who it sounds like has a bit of a social media addiction and ends up a meme for the worst date ever. She ends up making a deal to go cold turkey off of social media with a man named Carter, and in exchange he will teach her about the real world. I assume obviously a romance is going to develop here. Like I said, I'm so excited to continue with this romance series. Next up will be my second book by this author, Furiously Happy by Jenny Lawson. She is an author known most for her memoirs diving into mental health, and honestly they are so absolutely ridiculously hilarious, but I had such a fun time with her first one that I had to pick up the second. Here's hoping that I continue to really enjoy her writing. Finally, for the stack is Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz, and I believe this is kind of a story within a story murder mystery. I think we're following an editor who's trying to solve the case within the book she's editing, but also the case of the missing writer, I'm pretty sure. I've heard pretty positive things about this one across the board, and I am excited to pick it up. I love that sort of a setup, so hopefully that means I will love this book. Okay, so that is it for all the books I have hauled recently. Now for the few I have unhauled. Whenever my friends visited, I actually was able to give 3 books to one of them, which was 3 books off my shelves. First up was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is a sci-fi story following a man who wakes up on a spaceship with no memory of how he got there or who he is. I did enjoy this book, but it belonged to 𝗖cie, so I gave it back to her. I also gave her An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. I actually bought this for 𝗖cie because she wanted this specific edition, but I told her I was going to read it before she got it. It was okay. Fairies, just not really my thing. Fantasy romance, also not really my thing, so not gonna miss that one. And then finally is more of a unhaul. Technically it's not on my shelves right now, but I will eventually get it back, and that is A Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This is a adorable romance set out of Renaissance Fair, following one of the creators of the fair and then the young woman who is only there because her niece wants to participate. They have a enemies to lovers relationship, and oh my gosh, one of the best dynamics between the two of them, arguing right up until the first kiss, something I love. My friend Kat annotated this book before she gave it to me. I annotated it while I read it, and now Allie is going to read it and annotate it. So as I said, eventually it'll come back to me, but for the time being, Allie has it. And then finally, the last book that I'm actually going to be getting rid of is The Ravens by Kaz Morgan and Danielle Page. This is unfortunate because I was really hoping I would enjoy it with the setup of a coven of witches who hide themselves as a sorority at a college. I loved the idea of that setup, but unfortunately this mostly just felt like a YA sorority drama story. There's a love square that's happening, the mystery which appears halfway through the book. I totally called the reveal there. And then in terms of the actual magic, which was my favorite part, it just felt underutilized. This is actually part of a duology, and honestly I just don't think the ending of this book made it need a second book. I'm gonna get rid of this one and just not pick up the next. Alright y'all, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials linked in the description if you're interested in keeping up with what I am reading. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!